All right,
And we're recording.
we are live on Las Vegas Triathlon Club Facebook page. We're recording. I'm John Mercer, president of Las Vegas Tri Club. We got Bob Gambo, co-host of our Las Vegas Triathlon Club member spotlight. And my goodness, how did we not have this guy on our member spotlight
Oh,
earlier? But what a great way
goodness.
to start 2022 with having Ted Girouard as our first member spotlight guest for the year. This is going to be great because Ted and I have been racing for a long time, and it's just been really fun to do that. And we do our other podcast, our
Yep.
evidence-based triathlete podcast. And Ted is a colleague at work as well. And so this is actually a lot of fun, though, to highlight an area that he has really excelled at in triathlon. So this is going to be a lot of fun. But before we get going with you, Ted, I'm going to turn it over to Bob for the official introduction.
All right. Well, thank you, John, and welcome, Ted. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. And I mean, I'm really excited to talk about it, but really having a hard time figuring out how to even get started. For those of you out there who don't know Ted real well, Ted joined the club in 2012. Did his first triathlon in 2011, so he's been doing this for about 10 years. And you wouldn't expect it. 10 years worth of triathlons. I asked Ted, how many triathlons have you done? And he said, I don't know, maybe around 80. And I'm thinking, 80 triathlons. I mean, that's a bunch. And that is everything between, from sprints through Olympic, the long course, the 70.3s and Ironman. He's done it all. And not only has he done these races, a lot of people don't realize, and this is one of the reasons why I'm excited to have Ted on here, is to let everybody know how accomplished Ted is. He was the 2019 national champion in the 70.3 for the long course national triathlons. And also he was the bronze medalist in the world triathlon, in the world championship long course in 2017. So quite an experienced triathlete. And besides the experience, Ted has the education behind it as well, and this credentials. Many of you don't know it. Ted is the director of athletic training for UNLV, and he teaches athletic training at UNLV. So we are really, people don't realize how fortunate we are to have Ted in the club with so much expertise, so much experience, so much knowledge, and he's such a valuable resource. And so it just really is amazing to have Ted, and Ted gives freely of his advice, of his expertise, and likes to help other people. He's just a fantastic guy. One of the things, and I'll be done here in just a second. I know John and Ted are both saying, okay, get to it. There's a story that Ted told me that it just floored me. Ted, during the 2019 national championship, went off course, missed a turn. I guess, and I'm going to let Ted tell the story as far as why, but he went off course, hit a hole, and went over the handlebars and broke his collarbone. And got back up, realized his collarbone was broken, and he rigged some sort of a way to immobilize his arm with his number belt. And I figured, he was going to drop out. Of course, you got a broken freaking collarbone. You're not going to finish the race. But he decided he was going to finish. And not only did he finish, he won. He won the race with a broken collarbone. And so Ted, let's get started. Would you please tell us tell us about the crash. Tell us about what it was like to finish the race with a broken collarbone, and how on earth you were able to win. And just ahead of time, this thing brought up an idea. We're going to have to make an award called the Ted Girouard Badassery Award, because you don't just break a collarbone and then finish and you don't win. So it's like, so with that, Ted, how you doing tonight? And
I'm doing great. And John and Bob, thank you so much for bringing me on. This is kind of fun. You're both friends of mine, and I really do appreciate it. Let's talk about that story, because that's a great story. So we'll start out. That is my third time at that race. And the first 2 times I was there, I got second. So, second in the US Nationals. And I was going to that race one more time to win it. It was, in Miami in November. It's a big race to go to. And for me, it was like all in to win. Like that was my A race. Time, really, I thought I could win. My training was good to that point. Everything was going as planned. And
Let me jump in because your age group is an ultra competitive age group.
Yeah, that was 45 to 49.
Yeah, this is an incredibly competitive age group. So this is even more impressive. So,
and this is when a lot of long course triathlons are coming into their prime. Triathletes are coming into their prime. They've been doing it long enough and they're skilled enough. They have enough money for the equipment. And yes, so this is an incredibly hard age group.
Yeah. So I just, it was like, I was going there for one reason. I'd been second, like I said, twice in a row. And the only reason to go again was, to try and win. And there was about mile 26, 27 into the bike ride, maybe mile 30. I can't remember exactly. I misjudged a turn. It was a left-hand turn. I just misjudged it. And as I misjudged it, I hit a pothole with my front wheel. My front wheel straightened out. And I recognized I was going to go off road. And I was like, okay, I'll just straighten it out into the grass. It was grass, straighten it out into the grass. And, I didn't realize that in the grass, there was a very deep pothole. And so I went, over the top of the handlebars. And the crazy thing was there was fans there and the people on that corner. And, I flip over, I'm a mess. I'm bleeding on my shoulder. I hit my head pretty hard and everyone comes running over to me. Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm okay. Give me a second. And I had that thing on my Garmin that tells when I crash and it texts my wife, so that's beeping like an emergency signal's going off. All I can think of is I don't want to text my wife, like, because it's like 7, 8 in the morning there. So it's 5 in the morning in Las Vegas. And so I go and turn that off. And of course, first thing, you check the bike, make sure the bike's all right. And people are like, we need to call an ambulance for you. And I'm like, no, give me a second. And I kind of moved my shoulder and like, oh, that's not good. But within a minute, I'm probably back on my bike. And so I'm back on the bike and I'm like, oh man, this is over. I can't run. Well, I can't do this. And I already, at the time, I couldn't decide, like, was my collarbone broken or was my shoulder separated? So I got back into, arrow position and I recognized I couldn't use my right arm anymore. It was just kind of, stuck there. The problem was, adds to the story, is I couldn't drink. So I'm mile 30 and Miami's hot and humid. And so I had a little bit of water left in my between the arms bottle and I could sip on that, but I couldn't actually grab my bottle because like my right hand wasn't really working that well. My left hand needed to steer. And there was one more water stop. It's like mile 35 or mile 40. And I tried to grab a bottle. I literally couldn't grab the bottle. And then I told myself, you know what? You're not going to run. You're just going to get home because, what the only other option was to take an ambulance back. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So I just kept riding hard. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to run. So I might as well ride as hard as I can. And, you don't really use your arms much, even though there's a little bit of bumpy road. And every time I hit a bump, just the excruciating pain in my arm. And then about like mile 55, I get to the point where I'm like, how am I going to get off of this thing? Like I really started thinking like I couldn't really use that arm. And so I started like contemplating, okay, well, if I'm really careful, I could sit up. And so I get to the dismount line and I figure out a way to get off. And I just walk my bike because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to run. But at that race, we were lined up according to age group and there was no other bikes. Like I was literally the first bike in.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in first place.
You're like, bummer, I'm in first place.
I've got to run.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll run 1 mile. Yeah. Right. Just to see. And so I go out and I start running. And well, just getting my shoes on and off, like the bike shoes on and off was a problem. But I figured it out, started running, and every step was excruciating. Like it was like someone was stabbing me in the shoulder. And I was almost getting a little bit sick to my stomach even, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm dehydrated because I really hadn't drank, and it was probably 80 degrees, 80% humidity. And so I was like, okay, I got to drink. Like, that's fine. I know I need to do that, but this pain is so bad. And of course, as you're going along, every drink is on the right. And that was my right. My right. So I'm grabbing water on the left. And I get to mile 2. I'll never forget this. I get to mile 2, and there was a medical cart there. And I'm like, this is it. This is my chance. I can just stop. I can get in that thing. They'll drive me back. I'm good. So I just kept going. I went past them, and about half a mile later, I'm like, I can't do this. So I actually turned around and started walking back. And a couple of people passed me, and they look like they're my age group. I'm like, that's fine. Like I'm done. And I was traveling with someone else, Todd Mitchell, who many of you know. And I'm like, well, Todd started well behind me. So if I go in, I'm just gonna have to wait for him anyways. Like, we're traveling together. So I turned around. I'm like, well, I might as well just go. So I actually, like you said, I kind of created a splint for myself where my number belt and my shorts, I kind of cinched it up, the number belt, and tightened up my shorts, and I stuck my thumb in the waistband and where my race belt was. And so I stuck my thumb in it, and that was able to keep my arms still enough that I was actually able to run somewhat well. But the problem with that course is there were sections that were really rough, like almost like trail. And so I was okay when I was on like the dead flat, but as soon as I got on the trail, it caused problems. And so anyways, I keep going, and I just keep going, and I keep going. And then, you start playing the math games. Well, if I keep going at this pace, I'm like done in an hour. You play the games. And with about a mile to go, I passed somebody that was in my age group. And he said to me, he's like, you're running into first. And like, I didn't exactly know, because there's a lot going on. It's a 2-loop course, and I was just like, okay, I got a mile to go. I can make it. So I finished, and I still didn't believe, like, I didn't believe I had won. And so I didn't even care, honestly, at that time. I was like, I need some medical attention. I need some ice. I need some drugs. I need, I need something to, because it was excruciating pain. And so, I go to their medical, and this is my business too, right? Like medical for sports injury. Like I know what I need. Well, they don't have it. Right. I'm like, I need this, and I need this, and I need some Tylenol. I need a sling. I need some ice. They didn't have any of those things.
Oh no.
And I'm like, how do you not have ice? Like they had like where they have like the ones where you crush and it gets cold, and they're really cold, but they're hard. And like the hardness on my shoulder was no good. So I made a sling out of the finisher metal, which worked out really well. And then just a little bit of advice for people. If you need drugs and you're like at the finish of a race, find someone's mom with a big purse. Right. So I like found a lady with a big purse, and I asked her, I was like, first person that came to, I'm like, you wouldn't happen to have any Tylenol in your bag? Oh, sure I do.
Oh yeah, let me look. Just start digging it. Yeah.
Get some Tylenol. And then I just got to get to the car. I just need to sit down somewhere comfortable, turn the air conditioning on. I'm super overheated. So I walk over to our car, and I call my wife. Right. And she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, you have a concussion, because I hit my head pretty hard too. Yeah. You have a concussion. It's the only way you could have done that is if you had a concussion. Because I told her I think my shoulder separated. And she's like, I'm coming there. And I'm like, no, you're not. I will be home tomorrow. Like, Todd will help take care of me. And so, we're talking and we're talking. I'm like, well, I better go to the finish. I still don't know if I won or where I was. And so better go to the finish and, find Todd and get my bike and stuff. And so I go up to the finish, and I look on the screen, and sure enough, I was at that time I was in second place. And I'm like, oh man, second again. I can't believe I went through all this for a second. But the guy that actually was in first was a pro. And so
Ah,
they miscategorized. He was my age group, but he was in the pro field. So they miscategorized him. And so anyways, so I end up winning. And honestly, it was a super big thrill to win the national championship. And thankfully for COVID happening, I was the national champion for 2 years.
there you go.
Yeah. So that's how they do with the Olympic champions, right? Like you were still the champion because they didn't have
That's
the Olympics.
right. No one has
5 years.
dethroned you.
So, but no, someone has now. So I'm no longer the national champion. But that was pretty. Like I'm really proud of that day and overcoming. I probably shouldn't have kept going. Like the long-term ramifications of it. I mean, I'm still having shoulder issues. I hate to admit it. Where we've talked about this on our other podcast where I can't swim a lot of volume anymore. I think I've got a little bit of arthritis in that shoulder potentially because of this, but hey, I'm 50. Actually, I'm 49. I'm almost 50.
That's right.
That's okay. I can have that.
Do you by any chance remember your time?
It was like 4:40.
Oh my goodness. With the with the broken collarbone, 4:40.
Yeah. And then I was like, man, if that wouldn't have happened, I probably would have been like under 4:30, which would have been really awesome.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, not only was my shoulder like excruciating pain for the next, I don't know, week or so, but my body was so sore because I changed the way I was running, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have one arm swinging and you're used to one arm swinging, oh my gosh, my hip on the other side was.
Yeah, you're throwing your core off, you're throwing your back off, you're throwing everything.
I was a mess, but there was no more racing. I literally didn't race again for almost 2 years because of COVID after that. So, I mean, I had a good chance to recover.
Well,
Go out with a bang, huh?
Yeah.
I love this story because it shows, one, how tough of an athlete you are. It shows how talented you are, and how much grit you really have to not only finish but to ultimately win your age group. But I think there's a lot that led up to you being able to have that race, and you didn't start off winning your age group in your triathlon career, and I think that work that you put in to get to that point really sort of propelled you into that finish and that ability to do it. So let's even go back and tell us how you got started in triathlon and I know you 2011, but give us a sense of why you got into triathlon and how you started.
Absolutely.
And also before you get started, Ted, one of the things that impressed me is that you came a long way. You weren't, as John mentioned, and I wanted everybody to realize this, that you weren't a Tom Brady superstar from, right out of the chute. You developed and you're world class, but you came a long way. And I think the length of the journey speaks volumes to your tenacity and your knowledge of training too. So I just wanted to let everybody know that you did come a long way.
Yeah, well, thank you. I consider myself a student of triathlon. Like I want to learn and I want to know more. And, on any given day or week, I'm learning more about triathlon. I continue to learn more about it. And it's one of my passions is to be the most knowledgeable person in triathlon, because I think you can get away with not having all the physical attributes, because I don't think I have all the physical attributes I could possibly have by having the knowledge. And I think that's a big thing that I think we tend to miss. But anyways, let's go back to the beginning. So it goes a long way back, into the 2010, 2009. And I'd spent my career as an athletic trainer working with athletes and taking care of injured athletes, preventing injury of athletes. My job before I worked at UNLV, I worked with high-level soccer athletes, and I was doing athletic training, and I was the speed and agility coach and fitness coach for a lot of these elite soccer teams. And I kind of got burned out of helping other people, to be honest with you, for a while, but I was getting out of shape. I spent all my time standing on fields, and then I started working at UNLV, teaching and sitting at a desk and not being overly active. And I got out of shape. I got to be honest with you. when things were at my lowest, I was over 200 pounds. And, on a 5'8" frame, it doesn't look too good. I keep some pictures around of the before, and I was not well. I still remember like being so not well that I basically had chronic fatigue. I couldn't, not that I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't want to get out of bed. I would, lie down in the floor of my office in the afternoon and have to have a nap. And I knew something was wrong because I was like, I was like 38, and I'm like, this is not good. And so I went and saw my doctor, and we ran a bunch of blood tests, and my liver enzymes were quite elevated. And he's like, I think you have, fatty liver disease. And so, we actually ended up doing some ultrasounds and a CAT scan on my liver. And, ultimately that's what the diagnosis was. And he's like, hey, here's the thing. It's like, I have a lot of patients with this. And just so people know, it's not an uncommon thing in the United States. Like 30-40% of people have this. I mean, mine was going bad quickly though. And he's like, listen, like you could continue living the way you're living, and, you might develop into cirrhosis and into a lot of these other, potential problems, or you could do something about it. He's like, you have the knowledge to do something about this. And the thing with it is, there's not really any drugs for this. There's like, you have to change your lifestyle and get fit. And he's like, you know how to do that. You know how to eat healthy. Like you teach this stuff. You know how to exercise. You teach this stuff. And so I was like, well, when I was younger, I ran, and we've talked about it on the other podcast. I did orienteering at a pretty high level. So orienteering, for those of you that don't know, is running from point to point in a forest as fast as you can, with a map and a compass, and varying ranges from like 6K to 12K to 20K, races through mountains and rivers and streams and crazy stuff. And so I actually competed on a national level in Canada when I was young doing that. And so I was like, well, I can run. I love running. I hadn't ran in years, so I'm gonna run. And I can still remember the first runs. And actually, I've tracked all of this, by the way, since the beginning, the very first runs. And I could only run like 400 yards.
Oh.
And
Wow.
I was like, okay, like that was our big run. My last dog we had, he'd go with me, and I trained him at the same because he was lazy too. And, we do 400 yards, and every day I did 400 yards. And then the next week, okay, let's go a little further, a couple more light posts. I was like literally going by light posts. No. And so my wife actually at the time was doing triathlon, and I couldn't understand. I'm like, why would someone wake up early, go for a bike ride, swim 3 nights a week, go running? Like, I just could not fathom this. Like, why someone would do this. It was like insane to me. I'm like, you're an adult, you're not a kid. Like, so she signed up for a 5K, and there was a 1 mile option. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do the 1 mile. And so it was me and like 6 kids. Like and that's so funny. Everyone, the 1 mile goes and the 5K goes at the same time. And I can remember still, that was my first race as an adult, this one mile. And I crushed those kids. I gotta be honest. They go out too fast. They can't pace themselves even for a mile. And so I finished, and then I was like, you know what? The way it finished, I could actually catch up with where my wife was, because she had like a 2-loop thing. So I caught up with where she was, and I probably ran an extra 1.5 miles. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. When's the next 5K? And so I did the next 5K, and I did a bunch of 5Ks, and when I was training specifically for those. And then I was like, okay, I'll do a 10K. And then it was about 1.5 years later, I was running quite a bit, but that was all I was doing. Mm-hmm. And my wife's like, it was in the spring, and she's like, you know what I want for my birthday in September? She's like, I want you to do a triathlon. Mm-hmm. And I just like, oh, man, that's a big ask, because I couldn't swim. I literally did not know how to swim.
As an adult, you didn't know how to swim. That's so impressive.
And I hadn't ridden a bike in, since I was a kid, like probably since I was like 18, I hadn't ridden a bike. So our friend Julie lent me a bike, and we would go. I still remember my first bike ride, park at, a Dunkin' Donuts, and rode to the overlook and back. And man, that was it for me. Like the whole day, like, Like that's like a big accomplishment. And I can remember doing that several times. And then, oh, we're going to go to Blue Diamond and back. Oh man. Like, and we had to stop in Blue Diamond and get a popsicle, right? Because I needed the energy to just to make it home.
Ted, how far was that first ride?
The first
From,
ride was, I
Dunkin'
think it was like
Donuts to
12
Girouard?
miles,
What's that?
like 12 miles.
12 miles.
Yeah. And then, so, slowly got into that. And then my wife manages an adult swim team, Viva Las Vegas Masters. And I told her, I said, I won't come out there until I can actually I can't go out there and not be able to go down and back. Mm-hmm. So I was, I had a membership at Las Vegas Athletic Club, and I'm like, okay, I just would swim on my own. And man, I was king of the world when I could do 400 in the total time. So that means 8 times down and back, right? And I was like, when I can do that, when I can do 400, I'll come out to the team. And it was awesome because the team really embraced me, and they knew, where I was at and what I was trying to do. And so taught myself how to swim, and had help as well. Still not a great swimmer, but I'm not a back of the pack anymore swimming. And I guess the rest is history. Did my first triathlon, the Las Vegas Triathlon, in 2011. And I finished. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I made my wife happy. Birthday present done, check. And I was like, okay, I'll do another one in the spring. And I think the next one was Kokopelli in St. George, and that was the next one I did. And after that one, then I knew I was kind of hooked.
Oh, I love it. I love hearing this, thinking back to where you started, which is really a place that a lot of people can identify with. You're starting off and you're just trying to run a little bit, just trying to bike a little bit, just trying to swim a little bit. And
Yeah.
to where you are now, we hear this, we always say, oh, you're so talented because you have some great success. But the amount of work that you've put in to get to where you are now is just tremendous. And
that's what was so impressive when I learned about it, was the fact that you started doing 400 yards at a time running and going down and back swimming. I mean, this is why I wanted the rest of the club to hear this. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you are an accomplished Ironman, and you started and you came such a long way. So like I said, you are such an inspiration. So,
well,
wonderful.
It was a long journey, and I got to thank a lot of people along the way, that helped me, and some of them were the people that I was racing against. The local races in particular. There was always these 4 or 5 guys that would beat me in my age group, and they didn't even know that they were inspiring me. Yeah. Right? I would be swimming, and I'm like, gosh, because they beat me by 5-6 minutes in the swim in a sprint, right? And I'm like, oh man, if I could just be closer on the swim. And so there was mornings where I was swimming on my own, and I'd be like, okay, I had these guys in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. What they look like. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I've got to work harder. And they helped me. They don't even know who they are. I don't even remember their names. Mm-hmm. And, they helped propel me because, there was that carrot there, because I guess I'm a pretty competitive person, but, there's been a lot of people that have helped me along the way. Many swim coaches that have helped me, and John, you've helped me a tremendous amount. And and then so that's where I feel like I want to give back to others. The podcast that John and I do, we give away the trade secrets.
A lot of valuable information.
And John, what are we at? We have to be close to over 100 episodes now.
Oh yeah.
And I love doing that because if we can inspire others to make this journey just a little bit easier and give them the knowledge that that is something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, and you are very generous with your time and your knowledge, and it is the community benefits so much from that. But I am curious, at which point during this career that you've had did you feel like you turned a corner and were now competing not only for age group but for overall position? I mean, do you remember that phase, and you said, oh, I actually think I can be pretty good at this?
And when did you realize how good you were?
Oh, it's gonna sound really weird, but I don't I don't really know. I remember doing a VO2 max test
Yeah.
and like shooting a 72.
Holy cow.
And I know what those numbers mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, dang, like I have a genetic gift, because some of VO2 is genetic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that was one of the things I won't forget that. But as far as like racing, man, that's a really good question. I guess probably when I went to the first world championship I went to,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I've been to 7 or 8 now. I think that was probably the time. It's like, okay, you know what? Like, and I snuck in like on a huge roll down, and it's actually interesting. I have that little tag.
Yeah.
This is my first world championship.
Oh,
Mhm.
And I keep it actually on my desk. And I just keep it there. It's the only thing I have a bunch of stuff behind me, but that's the only thing I kind of keep right on my desk.
is that
and so
Chattanooga?
that was actually Mont Tremblant.
Mont Tremblant. Okay.
Yeah, 2014.
Yep.
And that was a heck of a race. I actually did a 4:30 in 1 second. I can always remember that, because like that's getting pretty rarefied at a championship event to go under 4:30, and I missed it by like a second.
Oh.
But I think that was the time when I was like, okay, like I'm good.
Yeah, I actually remember when you did that race and you came back and you did nail a 1:30, and that's a tough bike course too. And I at that point I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. I mean, you really came such a long way and such a neat, rich history there. Okay, so now I want to do a little bit of rapid fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love
All
it.
right. What's the hardest race you've done?
Oh, that's easy. St. George this year.
Oh, yeah.
So that's tough. So,
But you're a climber.
because of the weather conditions. But actually, I think the actual hardest race, oh man, that's a really tough one, because there's lots of different challenges in every race you do. Maybe the one in Austria that you did, Zellemsee, because the 10-kilometer climb at like 10% was
Geez.
pretty tough on the bike. But actually, I'm going to actually go with I've only done one Ironman, and that was probably the toughest, to be honest with you. And it was Ironman Arizona. It's not like it's a tough course, but.
Well, I have a follow-up question to John's.
Yep.
Which race are you the most proud of?
The most proud
What
of
finish?
is the long course world championship in Penticton in 2017. That was, to me, the pinnacle. Getting a bronze medal, like racing for your country, wearing the Team Canada colors, and I'm getting a little chills thinking about it. I can still remember going down the finish chute, and the representative from Team Canada giving me a flag
How
the
cool.
podium people, they give you a flag to run down the chute with. And all my family was there, because I'm from Canada. So my family was all there, and I had friends, come out for the race as well. And it was tough. I mean, that was a hard that in hot conditions. If anyone's raced in Penticton in the summer, they know it's a tough day. And that's the race I'm most proud of, for sure.
I love it. All right, so now sticking with the rapid fire, favorite travel race that you've done? You've traveled all over the world to race. So where's your favorite, I guess, destination race maybe?
It's got to be Austria, for sure.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Just beautiful countryside.
Now you've had success at sprints, Olympics, half Ironman, and you've done the Ironman. What is your favorite distance?
70.3 by far. Yeah. No question about it. Although I really love sprint racing.
Yeah.
Like I love 70.3, but I guess it would be between the two. Yeah. So that's a tough
It's
one.
fun. It's over in a hurry.
Yeah. And I like the fact that it's like all out. There's no, you're just over an hour of full gas, and everything matters. Like you can't make mistakes, especially at the highest level. You can't make a mistake. The times are really close, and in 70.3 racing, a lot of times the times between podium places could be 5-10 minutes. In a sprint race, it's like seconds.
Yeah. I love
Okay.
it. All right.
I've got a rapid fire then. we've got a lot of brand new triathletes in the club, a whole bunch of new ones. What is your best advice that you ever got that you could pass on? And what would you tell the new folks?
Number one is consistency in training. You have to, if you want to be successful, you have to be consistent. You have to take time off. Like I'm taking a week off right now. I've swam once this week and it was an easy swim. So you have to take time off, but day in, day out, week in, week out, consistent training. And what I've seen with a lot of new people to triathlon is they train really hard for like 2 or 3 months, do a race, and they don't train again. And then they want to do it again the next year. And they keep going through the difficult phase, and they never can truly develop, especially aerobically.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that was
Good
one of my
advice.
questions, Bob. That was you got it. That was good. All right, so I've got one more though.
Okay.
We've already covered this, but maybe it's a different answer. Most surprising result.
Oh, see, the national championship was surprising, but I don't think that's the most surprising. Because like I'd finished second twice in a row.
Yeah.
Like I was planning on winning or planning on, being first or second.
Mm-hmm.
The most surprising was that race in Penticton. People from all over the world were there, and yeah, that to me still was the most surprising.
I love it.
Like I
Well,
was hoping for a top 10.
yeah.
Yeah.
Penticton's a beautiful area, so that is memorable for many reasons. My goodness, I knew we weren't going to stay under 30
I know.
minutes.
I tried to talk fast.
No, we could keep going.
We could keep going with so many questions we could ask you.
Yeah, you've got such a great, experience and a great story and getting started to where you are now, and it's just so much fun talking with you, Ted. This is great.
Well, it's truly been my pleasure.
No. Well, we will meet again tomorrow.
We will meet again tomorrow.
On our other podcast. So this is a great way to kick off our member spotlight for 2022. So thank you again. Very generous with your time and the information that you have, and so inspiring to hear your story. It's really great.
Well, thanks.
And
I know it's been a long time since I got on, but my swimming is normally Thursday nights, but because I'm taking a week off, that's why you got me.
It's good timing. And also, I'm glad that we started off the year with your talk, because I know there's a lot of new triathletes out there that are going to be hitting it hard because of listening to you.
Awesome. Well, I wish the best of luck for everybody, and I wish a happy New Year to everybody, and I hope this is a great triathlon year for everyone out there.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much. Good night.
Thank you.